She was 2/100 ths of a second away from rewriting history. And the woman chasing her down the track was the exact same athlete she was trying to beat the record of. Stay with me till the end, because by the time this video is over, you'll understand why people inside the sport of track and field are starting to whisper one name whenever they talk about what she might do next, and that name is Usain Bolt. Here's what most people don't know before we even get into her story. The coach who built Usain Bolt from a raw, talented teenager into the fastest human being who has ever lived is now standing on the opposite side of the track from her. And he's already sent a warning about her, by name, to the press. If that doesn't tell you how big this rivalry is about to become, nothing will. So let's rewind and figure out how we got here. Her name is Masai Russell, born June 17, 2000, in Washington, D.C., raised in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. And here's the twist. Track wasn't even her first sport. She started in gymnastics. She tried ballet. She grew up in a house with 3 brothers, and most of her early childhood was spent playing basketball and football with them, not running hurdles. Nobody looking at her at age 6 or 7 would have guessed she'd end up an Olympic champion in track and field. The switch happened almost by accident, around age 8 or 9. Her mom took one of her brothers to a track meet, and Masai tagged along just to watch. But something about it grabbed her immediately. She said it herself. There was something about track she simply could not stay away from. And growing up constantly trying to keep up with brothers who were bigger, older, and faster than her gave her a competitive edge that never really left. By the time the family grew to 5 kids total, her 2 older brothers Philip and Divine, and younger siblings Zion and Solat, Masai was already the one refusing to lose to anybody, regardless of age or size. By elementary school, with 0 formal coaching, she was already the fastest kid at every single field day, beating boys and girls without any training behind it at all. Just raw natural speed and an unwillingness to come in second. Now here's where her story gets interesting, because her path to college was anything but smooth. Coming out of Bullis School in Potomac, she was an 8-time national high school champion and a 2-time national record holder, an elite recruit by any measure. She had verbally committed to Texas A&M. Then, one day before National Signing Day, that offer fell apart. So she pivoted and signed with Tennessee instead, a school she's openly admitted she had almost no real interest in. She only picked it because of one assistant coach she trusted. Kentucky, the school that would eventually define her college career, wasn't even on her radar. She never once visited campus. And yet that's exactly where she ended up, walking straight into a program that had already produced legends like Kendra Harrison and Olympic champion Sydney McLaughlin. Turns out, the accident was exactly where she needed to be. By 2023, Russell was rewriting the collegiate record books. She ran the collegiate record in the 60-meter hurdles at 7.75 seconds. She set the collegiate outdoor record in the 100-meter hurdles at 12.36 at the Texas Relays. She finished as NCAA runner-up in both the 100-meter and 400-meter hurdles in the same season, a level of dominance almost nobody produces across 2 different hurdle events in 1 year. She racked up 11 All-American honors. And she did all of this while rooming with future Olympic star Abby Steiner and landing on the SEC academic honor roll multiple times, proving the discipline she carried on the track wasn't separate from who she was off it. That same summer, she finished 3rd at the U.S. Outdoor Championships, punching her ticket to her first World Championships in Budapest. She advanced to the semifinal. And then, mid-race, disaster, she clipped a hurdle. The momentum from an incredible college season collapsed in a single misstep, and her first major global championship ended without her even reaching the final. Right after that, she made a bold decision. She turned professional, walking away from her remaining college eligibility. And what followed was, by her own admission, one of the hardest stretches of her career. She entered 2024 with no major shoe sponsor. She was training in Lexington, Kentucky, completely outside the structure and financial support system that college athletics provides. Think about what that actually means. For most elite athletes, going pro after college is supposed to be the payoff, the moment the years of unpaid grinding finally turn into a real income. For Russell, it was the opposite. No team trainers covering recovery. No built-in media platform. Just a 23-year-old with a fresh NCAA record and a costly, public mistake on the world stage, trying to convince sponsors she was worth betting on, before she'd even fully convinced herself. She's described what came next as a downward spiral of overthinking her own technique, doubting her own starts, and constantly worrying about how the sport viewed an unsponsored and proven professional. And she's admitted something most fans would never guess about an Olympic champion: a genuine, irrational fear of colliding with the hurdles themselves. A fear that quietly undercut her performances for far longer than she ever let on publicly. Sit with that for a second. A record-breaking college career, immediately followed by a very public fall on the world stage. Immediately followed by turning pro with zero safety net and zero sponsor. Right at the exact moment most young athletes need financial and institutional support the most. So she rebuilt herself. Not in some dramatic, cinematic comeback moment. Just quietly, piece by piece. Mentally, physically, nutritionally, spiritually, in her own words. There was no viral announcement. No single race that magically fixed the self-doubt. Just months of small, unremarkable training blocks in the same town, on the same track, with the same coach she'd had since college, Lonnie Green. One repetition at a time, learning to trust her own legs again while the rest of the sport had mostly moved on and forgotten about her. Then, in early 2024, after finishing fourth in the 60-meter hurdles at the World Indoor Championships in Glasgow, Nike finally signed her. The rebuild was starting to pay off. At the 2024 U.S. Olympic trials, everything clicked. She won the 100-meter hurdles outright, running a personal best of 12.25 seconds, sealing her spot in Paris. Then came the Olympic final itself, and it came down to a photo finish against France's Cyrena Sambamiyila. Russell crossed the line in 12.33 seconds. She won by 1/100th of a second, a margin she has described as faster than a human blink. She became the first American woman to win Olympic gold in the 100-meter hurdles since 2004, ending a 20-year drought in an event the United States once completely dominated. Stop and really process her timeline here. A devastating fall in a Budapest semifinal. An unsponsored professional rebuilding her confidence from absolute zero. And within 12 months, an Olympic champion. You'd think that's where the story ends. A perfect redemption arc, gold medal, roll credits. Instead, it was only the beginning of the part where she started chasing actual history. In May 2025, she broke the American record, running 12.17 seconds at Grand Slam track in Miami. Then 2026 opened, and she looked like a completely different athlete. On May 16th, at the Shanghai Diamond League, she won with a world-leading time of 12.25 seconds, saying afterward, "I was not coming here to come second or third. My only mindset was just to win." Then came May 23rd, 2026, in Xiamen. Russell crossed the line in 12.14 seconds, a new American record, and the second fastest 100-meter hurdles ever run by any woman in history. She missed the outright world record by just 2/100ths of a second. And here's the part that turns this into a genuine rivalry story. The athlete chasing her hardest across that finish line, unable to close the gap, was the woman who actually holds that world record, Toby Usain, finishing second in 12.28. 2/100ths of a second from history, in the very same race as the woman who owns that record. No extraordinary tailwind. No altitude advantage. Just a hurdler in career-best form, on a fast track in southern China, clearing 10 consecutive barriers about as cleanly as a human body has ever managed it. Devon Charlton, the world indoor record holder, finished third behind both of them, setting a new national record of her own, which tells you just how absurdly stacked this event has become in 2026. "I'm ecstatic, and all the hard work is truly showing," Russell said afterward. "I've been saying all year that I'm going to break the world record. I don't know when it's going to come, but I keep getting closer and closer." Now bring it back to where this video started. Glenn Mills, the coach who engineered Usain Bolt's entire world record-breaking career, 8 Olympic golds, the fastest man who has ever lived, is now in the corner of the one woman standing between Masai Russell and history. In late 2024, Mills took on Toby Usain, the Nigerian world record holder, as his new athlete. And he didn't hold back talking to the press. He called her a true professional and, in doing so, sent what reporters described as a direct warning to her rivals, naming one specifically, Masai Russell. That's not just hype for his new athlete. That's the exact same battle line drawing that once defined Bolt's biggest rivalries at the very top of the sport. Even Noah Lyles, the reigning Olympic 100 and 200-meter champion, has acknowledged where the bar still sits, saying flatly, "Technically, the fastest man alive is Usain Bolt." When the conversation turns to records and legacies in this sport, Bolt's name is still the ceiling everyone reaches for, including the people now reacting to what Masai Russell is doing. So where does that leave her right now? She's ranked the #1 woman in the world in the 100-meter hurdles. She's the reigning Olympic champion. She holds the American record. She is the second fastest woman to ever clear 10 hurdles in a row. And by her own words, the only real question left isn't whether she breaks the world record, it's when. Now compare that to where she stood barely 3 years earlier, hitting a hurdle in a world championship semifinal, unsponsored, quietly wondering whether she even belonged at this level. The distance between that version of Masai Russell and the one now separated from history by 2/100ths of a second isn't luck. It's the direct, traceable result of a rebuild that almost nobody outside her own training group was paying attention to while it was happening. Los Angeles, 2028. Russell will be 27 years old, walking into what should be the absolute prime of a hurdler's career, defending her Olympic title on American soil, with Glenn Mills and Toby Amusin waiting for her on the same start line. If her current trajectory holds, the conversation by then might not even be about whether she catches Amusin's number anymore. It might be about whose name ends up next to that world record once Russell, or whoever ends up replacing her at the very top of this event, finally gets there first. So here's the question I want you to actually answer, not just scroll past. Does Masai Russell break the women's 100-meter hurdles world record before Los Angeles 2028? And does she walk away from those games still wearing the Olympic crown? Drop your answer below. I read every single one. And if you want to be here for whatever she does next, make sure you're subscribed, because this story is only getting started.